Alex Carter crouched in the shadows beside the fortress wall, his heart pounding as alien voices echoed from the maintenance entrance just 20 feet away. The power failure had created exactly the chaos he needed. Emergency lights flickered red throughout the fortress, and confused Vortex soldiers were running in all directions, trying to restore normal operations. The maintenance entrance was guarded by 2 aliens instead of the usual 4. The other 2 guards had been sent inside to help with the power crisis. Alex could hear them arguing in their harsh language, probably deciding whether to stay at their posts or join the emergency response. Alex moved quickly and silently. He had learned to walk like a ghost during his weeks of guerrilla warfare, and the aliens never noticed him slip past their position in the darkness. The maintenance door was open, propped wide to allow repair crews easy access. Alex slipped inside and found himself in a narrow corridor lined with pipes and cables. The fortress interior was dimly lit by emergency power, creating long shadows that Alex used for cover. He could hear Vorthic voices echoing from deeper in the building, all of them focused on the power problem. According to his intercepted communications, the damage was in Section 7, which was on the opposite side of the fortress from where Alex needed to go. Alex had memorized the fortress layout from his observations, but seeing it from the inside was different. The corridors were built for creatures much larger than humans, with ceilings that stretched 12 feet high and doorways wide enough for 3 people to walk through side by side. Everything was made of the same dark metal as the exterior walls, giving the place a cold, oppressive feeling. He moved through the maintenance areas, following the power cables and cooling pipes toward the center of the fortress. The human work. Crews had been pulled away to deal with the emergency, leaving the technical areas mostly empty. Alex could hear the distant hum of the main power core, a deep vibration that seemed to come from the very walls around him. After 10 minutes of careful movement, Alex reached his first objective, the fortress's communication center. This was a small room filled with alien computers and transmitters, all of them currently running on backup power. The room was empty, the technicians having been called away to help with the power crisis. Alex had studied enough captured Vorthic equipment to understand their basic systems. He connected his salvage communication device to their main transmitter and began broadcasting on the internal frequencies used by the human work crews. He kept his message short and simple. This is Alex Carter, Human Resistance. If you can hear this, tap 3 times on any metal pipe. I'm here to get you out. Alex waited, listening carefully. After a few seconds, he heard it, 3 sharp taps coming from somewhere below him. Then 3 more taps from a different direction. Then more, as human prisoners throughout the fortress responded to his message. Listen carefully. Alex continued his broadcast. In 2 hours, there will be a prison break. When you hear the main power alarms, get to the nearest exit and run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just run. Tell everyone you can. Alex disconnected from the communication system and moved on to his next objective. The human prisoners now knew help was coming, but Alex still had to figure out how to actually rescue them. The fortress held over 3,000 people, and there was no way he could lead them all out through the maintenance entrance. He needed a bigger distraction. Alex made his way toward the power core, following the main energy conduits through the fortress's lower levels. The corridors here were wider and more heavily traveled, forcing him to move more carefully. He could hear Vorthic guards discussing the power failure, their voices tense with frustration. The power core chamber was exactly what Alex had expected, a massive room dominated by a fusion reactor the size of a building. The reactor hummed with barely contained energy, surrounded by control panels and monitoring equipment. Most importantly, it was connected to the fortress's main computer systems, which controlled everything from life support to the energy shields. Alex had brought explosive charges made from captured alien weapons, but he realized that simple destruction wouldn't be enough. If he just blew up the power core, the explosion would happen immediately, giving the prisoners no time to escape. He needed to create a delayed reaction, something that would give him time to open the prison areas and get the humans to safety. Solution came from his engineering background. Instead of destroying the reactor, Alex could overload it by disconnecting the safety systems and forcing it to run beyond its normal limits. The reactor would take time to build up to a critical overload, giving him perhaps 30 minutes before the explosion. Alex connected his salvaged computer equipment to the reactor's control systems. The alien technology was advanced, but it followed the same basic principles as human engineering. Every reactor needed safety systems to prevent overload, and every safety system had weaknesses that could be exploited. Working quickly, Alex began reprogramming the reactor's automatic controls. He disabled the emergency shutdown procedures, removed the pressure release systems, and set the reactor to increase power output far beyond safe levels. When he was finished, the reactor would slowly build toward a massive explosion that would destroy the entire fortress. But first, he had to free the prisoners. Alex made his way toward the main prison areas, using maintenance tunnels and service corridors to avoid the Vorthic guards. The fortress's internal layout was designed for security, with multiple checkpoints and locked doors between the different sections. But Alex had one advantage. The aliens' own security systems were designed to keep people in, not to keep someone from getting in. The first prison area held about 500 humans, all of them crowded into a large chamber that had originally been designed as a cargo hold. The prisoners were sitting on the floor, talking quietly among themselves. Alex could see the fear and despair in their faces, but also something else: hope. His radio message had spread through the prison population, and they knew someone was coming for them. The problem was the door. It was locked with an alien security system that required both a key card and a biometric scan from a Vorthic officer. Alex didn't have either, but he did have something else: explosives and an understanding of structural engineering. Instead of trying to open the door, Alex decided to make a new one. He planted charges along the wall next to the door, calculating the exact amount of explosive needed to create a hole without bringing down the entire ceiling. The blast would be loud, but Alex was counting on the confusion from the power failure to mask the sound. Alex moved on to the second prison area, then the third, placing charges at each location. By the time he finished, he had prepared escape routes for over 2,000 prisoners. The remaining humans were scattered throughout the fortress in smaller groups, and Alex would have to hope they could find their own way out in the chaos. As Alex worked, he could hear increased activity from the Vorthic guards. The aliens had restored partial power to the fortress, and they were beginning to organize proper security sweeps. It wouldn't be long before they discovered that someone had infiltrated their stronghold. Alex made his way back toward the power core, checking his timing. He had set the reactor to begin its overload sequence in 20 minutes, giving him just enough time to trigger the prison brakes and escape. But as he reached the core chamber, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Alien voices were coming from inside the chamber, speaking in urgent tones. Alex peered around the corner and saw 3 Vorthic technicians working on the reactor controls, apparently trying to diagnose the earlier power failure. If they discovered his sabotage, they could stop the overload and trap him inside the fortress. Alex checked his weapons. He had one energy rifle with half a charge, a few small explosives, and a knife he had made from salvaged metal. Against 3 armed aliens in a confined space, his chances weren't good. But he didn't have a choice. If the technicians discovered his work, thousands of humans would die. Alex took a deep breath and stepped into the chamber, his rifle raised. The aliens looked up in surprise, their 4 eyes widening as they saw a human standing before them. For a moment, nobody moved. Then all hell broke loose. The aliens reached for their weapons, but Alex was faster. His first shot caught the nearest technician in the chest, sending it crashing into a control panel. The second alien managed to draw its weapon, but Alex's knife took it in the throat before it could fire. The third alien activated an alarm. Before Alex could stop it, emergency sirens began blaring throughout the fortress. Red lights flashed, and Alex could hear Vorthic voices shouting orders over the communication system. The aliens now knew they had an intruder, and they would be coming for him with everything they had. Alex looked at the reactor controls. The overload sequence was still running, but he had lost the element of surprise. The aliens would be searching for him, and they might discover the charges he had placed around the prison areas. Alex activated his detonator. Throughout the fortress, explosions echoed as the prison walls collapsed, creating escape routes for the human captives. Over the alarm sirens, Alex could hear new sounds. Human voices shouting, feet running, and the chaos of a massive prison break. Alex Carter lay flat on his stomach behind a pile of broken concrete, watching the alien fortress through the scope of a captured Vorthic rifle. 3 weeks of constant fighting had taught him patience and observation skills he never knew he possessed. The fortress was massive, its black walls rising 200 feet into the air, topped with weapon towers that could destroy anything that came near. But Alex wasn't looking at the weapons. He was studying the patterns. For 5 days, he had watched the aliens come and go from their stronghold. He had counted guard rotations, timed patrol schedules, and mapped every entrance and exit. The Vorthic were creatures of habit, following the same routines with military precision. Their predictability was becoming their weakness. The fortress had 3 main gates: the primary entrance facing the colony, a supply gate on the eastern wall, and a smaller maintenance entrance on the north side. The primary gate was heavily defended with energy cannons and dozens of guards. The supply gate was also well protected, especially after Alex's attack on their convoy. But the maintenance entrance was different. The north gate was used only by repair crews and cleaning staff. It was smaller, less impressive, and the aliens seemed to consider it unimportant. Alex had counted only 4 guards stationed there, and they looked bored and careless. More importantly, the gate led directly into the fortress's utility sections, where the power systems and life support equipment were located. Alex shifted his position slightly, getting a better view of the fortress's upper levels. Through his scope, he could see Vorthic officers moving around behind the large windows of what appeared to be a command center. One figure stood out among the others, a massive alien wearing elaborate armor covered with symbols and decorations. This had to be High Commander Zexthari, the leader who had dismissed humans as weak and helpless. The commander was pointing at what looked like star charts and speaking to other officers. Alex wished he could hear what they were saying, but the fortress was too far away and too well shielded for his captured communication equipment to penetrate. As Alex watched, a group of human prisoners was marched across the fortress courtyard. Even from this distance, he could recognize some of them. There was Dr. Martinez from the colony hospital, old Mr. Peterson, who ran the hardware store, and several of the school teachers. They all looked thin and tired, their clothes dirty and torn. Alex felt his anger building as he watched the aliens herding his neighbors like cattle. The Vorthic guards prodded the humans with energy sticks, laughing when someone stumbled or fell. These creatures found humans suffering amusing, treating his people like animals for their entertainment. But it was the next group of prisoners that made Alex's blood run cold. A smaller group was being led across the courtyard, their hands bound with alien restraints. Alex adjusted his scope and felt his heart stop. Lisa was among them, along with about 20 other young adults. They were being taken toward a different part of the fortress, separated from the main prisoner population. Alex had intercepted enough alien communications to know what this meant. These prisoners were being prepared for the execution that the team captured Vorthic had told him about. The aliens planned to kill them as a demonstration of power, a warning to other human colonies about the price of resistance. The execution was scheduled for 3 days from now, according to the alien radio chatter Alex had been monitoring. The Vorthic wanted to broadcast the event across human space, showing what happened to species that dared to fight back against the Empire. Alex lowered his rifle and closed his eyes, trying to control his emotions. Rage wouldn't help Lisa now. He needed to think clearly, to plan carefully, and to use every advantage he could find. The aliens still believed they were fighting multiple human guerrilla fighters. They had no idea that all their losses had come from one person. That misconception was about to become crucial. Over the next 2 days, Alex conducted the most dangerous reconnaissance of his life. He used the underground drainage tunnels that ran beneath the colony to get closer to the fortress. The tunnels were old and partially collapsed, but they had been ignored by the aliens, who saw no value in the human infrastructure. The tunnel system brought Alex within 50 yards of the fortress walls. From there, he could hear alien conversations, monitor their radio frequencies, and observe their security procedures up close. What he learned changed everything. The Vorthic fortress was indeed nearly impregnable from the outside. Its energy shields could deflect orbital bombardment. Its walls were 3 feet thick and made of an alien metal stronger than steel, and its defensive systems were automated and redundant. Any conventional assault would be suicide, but the aliens had a blind spot. Their security was designed to stop attacks from outside the fortress, not from within. Once inside, the fortress relied on identification scanners and access codes rather than heavy defenses. The aliens simply couldn't conceive of an enemy infiltrating their stronghold. Alex discovered this weakness when he intercepted a conversation between 2 Vorthic technicians. They were complaining about having to constantly repair damage to the fortress's power systems. Apparently, the human prisoners were being forced to work in the lower levels, maintaining the generators and life support equipment. The aliens were using human labor to keep their own fortress running, and they were so confident in their security that they barely guarded the work areas. The Vorthic believed that even if the human workers tried to sabotage something, they lacked the knowledge and tools to cause any real damage. They were wrong about that too. Alex had been a military engineer before becoming a Marine. He understood power systems, structural engineering, and the physics of controlled explosions. More importantly, he had been studying captured Vorthic technology for weeks, learning how their energy systems worked and where their vulnerabilities lay. The fortress's power core was located in the center of the structure, surrounded by the main prisoner holding areas. It was a massive fusion reactor that provided energy for the entire facility, including the shields, weapons, and life support. If that reactor were to overload, the explosion would destroy the fortress and everything in it. But Alex also realized that destroying the power core would mean killing all the human prisoners, including Lisa. He needed a way to get the prisoners out before triggering the reactor overload. That would require precise timing, inside knowledge of the fortress layout, and a level of coordination that seemed impossible for one person to achieve. Unless that one person had help from the inside. Alex began monitoring the alien communications, more carefully listening for any mention of the human work crews. He learned that the prisoners were divided into groups based on their skills and physical capabilities. The strongest were used for heavy labor in the mining operations outside the fortress. The most intelligent were assigned to technical work inside the facility. The rest were kept in holding areas, waiting to be processed for shipment to other Vorthic worlds. The technical workers had access to the fortress's internal systems, including the power core area and the communication networks. If Alex could somehow contact them, he might be able to coordinate an escape plan. But first, he needed to find a way inside the fortress. The opportunity came on the second night of his reconnaissance. Alex was hiding in the drainage tunnel beneath the fortress when he heard an explosion from somewhere inside the building. Emergency alarms began blaring, and he could hear Vorthic voices shouting orders in their harsh language. Through his communication device, Alex learned that one of the human work crews had accidentally damaged a power conduit while doing repairs. The damage wasn't serious, but it had caused a temporary blackout in part of the fortress. The aliens were furious, and they were demanding that the human workers fix the problem immediately. Alex saw his chance. In the confusion and darkness, he might be able to slip inside the fortress through the maintenance entrance. The aliens would be focused on the power failure, and their security would be disrupted by the blackout. But he would only get one chance. If he was caught inside the fortress, there would be no escape. The aliens would kill him slowly and painfully, and then they would execute all the human prisoners out of spite. Alex checked his equipment one last time. He had explosive charges made from captured alien weapons, tools salvaged from the mining facility, and detailed plans of the fortress's internal layout based on his observations. He also had something the aliens didn't expect: the desperate determination of a human being fighting for his family and his people. The fortress loomed above him, its walls black against the starlit sky. Somewhere inside, Lisa and thousands of other humans were waiting for rescue that they didn't even know was coming. The aliens thought their stronghold was unbreachable, that no human could possibly threaten their power. They were about to discover what one determined human could accomplish when everything he loved was on the line. Alex Carter had spent 3 weeks learning about his enemies, studying their weaknesses, and preparing for this moment. Now it was time to show the Vortic Empire what human ingenuity could do when pushed to its limits. Alex Carter spent the first 2 days after the invasion hiding in the ruins of the old mining facility, 3 miles from the colony. The facility had been abandoned for years, and the Vortic had ignored it completely. From his hiding spot, Alex could see the alien fortress rising higher each day, its dark walls gleaming in the sunlight like a monument to human defeat. But Alex wasn't planning to stay defeated. On the 3rd morning, he watched a small Vortic patrol heading toward the old forest road. There were only 3 aliens, moving in a loose formation that showed their complete lack of concern for human threats. They carried their energy weapons casually, almost carelessly, and they were talking among themselves in their harsh language. Alex had been studying the aliens for days, learning their habits and weaknesses. The Vortic were physically stronger than humans, but they were also predictable. They followed the same routes, used the same tactics, and never seemed to consider that a human might fight back. That was about to change. Alex had prepared his first trap carefully. He had salvaged explosives from the abandoned mining equipment, rigged them with a simple pressure trigger, and buried them under a pile of rocks on the forest path. The setup was crude but effective, and the aliens would never see it coming. The patrol walked straight into the trap. The explosion sent dirt and rocks flying in all directions, and when the smoke cleared, all 3 Vortic were dead. Alex felt a grim satisfaction as he examined the bodies. The aliens had been caught completely off guard, never expecting any human to be capable of such a thing. But Alex wasn't done. He dragged the bodies into the forest and took their weapons and equipment. The Vortic energy rifles were heavy and awkward in his hands, but they were far more powerful than his human weapons. He also took their communication devices, ammunition, and anything else that might be useful. The aliens didn't discover their missing patrol until the next day. Alex watched from a distance as Vortic search teams combed the forest, looking for signs of what had happened. They found the crater from the explosion, but they seemed confused by it. Their body language suggested they were arguing about whether it had been an accident or an attack. Alex decided to make it clear. 2 days later, another patrol disappeared. This time, Alex used a different method. He had rigged a deadfall trap using heavy rocks and cable from the mining facility. When the aliens triggered it, tons of stone came crashing down, crushing them instantly. Again, Alex took their equipment and disappeared into the wilderness. By the end of the first week, the Vortic had lost 12 soldiers to Alex's traps and ambush. The aliens were starting to get nervous. They began sending larger patrols, 4 or 5 soldiers instead of 3. They also started being more careful, checking the ground ahead of them and moving more slowly. But Alex adapted too. He began using the aliens' old weapons against them, setting up ambush with captured energy rifles. He learned to use their communication devices to listen in on their conversations. He discovered that the Vortic had a rigid command structure and always followed orders exactly, which made them predictable. The aliens still didn't understand what was happening. In their experience, conquered species either surrendered completely or died fighting in large groups. The idea that a single individual could wage war against them was foreign to their thinking. They kept looking for signs of organized human resistance, never realizing that one man was responsible for all their losses. Alex used this confusion to his advantage. He would attack a patrol on the east side of the colony, then circle around and hit another group on the west side the same day. The aliens thought they were facing multiple human fighters, maybe an entire guerrilla army. They never suspected that all the attacks were coming from one person. After 2 weeks of constant harassment, the Vortic began to show signs of stress. Alex could see it in their movements, the way they jumped at unexpected sounds, the way they bunched together when they walked. These were soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. The aliens started making mistakes. They would fire at shadows, waste ammunition on false alarms, and argue among themselves about tactics. Their overconfidence was cracking, replaced by something they had probably never felt before on a conquered world. Uncertainty. Alex made his boldest move yet on the 15th day. He had been watching the alien supply runs, noting how they brought fresh equipment and supplies from their ships to the fortress. The supply convoys were heavily guarded, but they followed the same route every time. And there was one spot where the road passed through a narrow canyon. Alex spent an entire day preparing his trap. He rigged the canyon walls with explosives, creating a perfect kill zone. When the supply convoy entered the canyon, he triggered the charges. The explosions brought down half the canyon wall, crushing the alien vehicles and trapping the survivors. In a pile of rubble, the attack destroyed enough supplies to feed the alien garrison for a week. More importantly, it showed the Vortic that their enemy could strike anywhere, anytime. No place was safe. No mission was routine. The single human they couldn't find was turning their conquest into a nightmare. Alex could hear the aliens increase radio chatter after the supply convoy attack. They were sending more patrols, posting more guards, and checking every shadow for signs of human activity. But they were also getting frustrated and scared. He could hear the tension in their voices, even when they spoke in their own language. Breakthrough came when Alex managed to capture a Vortic soldier alive. He had set up an ambush near the colony's old water treatment plant, using a net made from mining cables. When the alien patrol walked into the trap, Alex dropped the net on one soldier while the others were killed by explosive charges. The captured Vortic was terrified. It kept looking around frantically, expecting to see more humans. When Alex interrogated it using the translation device he had taken from another patrol, the alien's answers revealed something crucial. The Vortic had no idea they were fighting only one human. "How many humans are fighting us?" Alex asked through the translator. "Many," the alien replied. "Too many. You are everywhere at once. You use different weapons, different tactics. You know our movements before we make them." Alex almost smiled. The aliens thought they were facing an army of human guerrilla fighters, each one using different methods and attacking from different directions. They had no concept that one person could be so adaptable, so creative, so relentless. But the interrogation also revealed something disturbing. The Vortic were planning to execute a group of human prisoners as a warning to other colonies. They wanted to show what happened to species that resisted the Vortic Empire. The execution was scheduled for the next week, and Lisa was among the prisoners selected. Alex felt a cold rage building in his chest. These aliens had invaded his world, enslaved his people, and now they wanted to murder his sister to make a point. They thought humans were weak, helpless, and easily controlled. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. After extracting all the information he could from the prisoner, Alex faced a difficult decision. He could kill the alien, but that would just add one more body to his count. Instead, he chose a different path. He released the Vortic soldier with a message. "Tell your commanders," Alex said through the translator, That if they harm any human prisoners, the attacks will get much worse. Tell them that humans don't give up, we don't surrender, and we don't forget. Tell them that one human has done. All this, and there are billions more where I came from. The alien soldiers stumbled back toward the fortress, carrying Alex's message. Alex watched it go, knowing that his words would spread panic through the Vorthic ranks. These aliens had conquered 43 worlds, but they had never faced anything like human determination. The war was far from over. Alex had proven that humans could fight back, that they could adapt and overcome superior technology. But now the stakes were higher. The aliens were planning to kill innocent people, including his sister, and he had to stop them. Alex gathered his captured weapons and equipment, planning his next move. The aliens thought they were dealing with a large resistance force, but they were wrong. They were dealing with something much more dangerous, a single human who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The fortress loomed in the distance, its walls seeming impregnable. But Alex had learned something important over the past 2 weeks. The aliens' greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They were so confident in their superiority that they couldn't imagine being defeated by someone they considered inferior. That blindness would be their downfall. Alex Carter was about to show them what one determined human could accomplish when pushed to the breaking point. 3 days after the first contact, the Vorthic fleet arrived at the human colony of New Haven like a storm of death and metal. The colonists had no warning. Their communication arrays had been jammed, their defensive satellites destroyed in the first minutes of the attack. The aliens struck with the precision of a surgeon and the brutality of a hurricane. Marine Sergeant Alex Carter was enjoying a cup of coffee on the porch of his small house when the sky caught fire. He watched in horror as massive alien ships descended through the atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. The ships were enormous, each one the size of a city block, and they moved with impossible grace for something so large. "Lisa, get in the basement now," Alex shouted to his younger sister, who was tending to her garden behind the house. Lisa Carter was 23 years old and had come to New Haven to start a new life as a teacher. She looked up at the sky with wide eyes, her face pale with terror. "Alex, what's happening?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Just go." Alex pushed her toward the house as the first alien weapons began to fire. Beams of purple energy lanced down from the ships, striking the colony's power plant, communication center, and military depot. Each beam created explosions that shook the ground and sent clouds of smoke and debris into the air. Alex grabbed his service rifle from inside the house and checked the ammunition. He had been stationed on New Haven for 2 years, supposedly, for a quiet tour of duty on a peaceful farming world. The colony had 12,000 people, most of them families who had come here to build a better life. There was one small military base with maybe 50 Marines, and their heaviest weapons were some anti-aircraft guns that looked like toys compared to the alien ships. The first alien landing craft touched down in the town square, crushing cars and buildings under their massive weight. The craft were shaped like teardrops, with smooth black surfaces that seemed to absorb light. Ramps lowered from their sides, and the Vorthic soldiers began to emerge. Alex had seen them on the communication screen 3 days ago, but seeing them in person was different. They were massive, each one standing nearly 8 feet tall and covered in what looked like natural armor. Their gray skin was thick and scarred, and their 4 eyes glowed with a pale yellow light. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, and their claws clicked against the metal of their equipment. The human colonists tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The Vorthic had landed their ships in a perfect circle around the colony, trapping everyone inside. The aliens moved with practiced efficiency, herding the humans like cattle. Anyone who tried to resist was struck down with energy weapons that left nothing but ash and smoke. Alex watched from his hiding place as his neighbors were rounded up. Old Mr. Henderson, who ran the general store, was dragged from his building by 2 Vorthic soldiers. The aliens seemed amused by his struggles, treating him like a child throwing a tantrum. Mrs. Rodriguez, the colony's doctor, was captured while trying to help wounded civilians. The alien showed no interest in her medical skills, only in her ability to work. The Vorthic commander was easy to identify. He was larger than the others, with more elaborate armor and weapons. He stood in the center of the town square, giving orders in their harsh language, while human prisoners were brought before him. The commander looked at each human with the same expression a farmer might use when examining livestock. "Acceptable," the commander said in broken English, pointing at a group of young adults, "strong enough for mining. Taken to the holding. Pens, too old," he said, gesturing at a group of elderly colonists. "Process them for food production." Alex felt sick as he realized what the alien meant. These creatures weren't just taking prisoners. They were sorting humans like products, deciding who would be useful as slaves and who would be killed. The casual way they discussed human lives made his blood boil with rage. The military base fell within an hour. Alex could see the explosions and smoke from his position, but he couldn't help. The base's communications equipment had been destroyed in the first attack, and the Marines were cut off from any support. The aliens had clearly studied human military tactics and knew exactly what to hit to cripple their defenses. By afternoon, the Vorthic had established a massive temporary prison in the colony's central park. They used some kind of energy barrier to create walls, trapping thousands of humans in a space meant for picnics and children's games. The aliens posted guards around the perimeter, but Alex noticed that there weren't very many of them. The Vorthic clearly didn't consider the humans much of a threat. That evening, Alex watched as the aliens began constructing something huge on the outskirts of the colony. It was a fortress, built with incredible speed, using machines that seemed to reshape matter itself. The structure rose from the ground like a mountain, with towering walls and weapon emplacements. Within hours, it was larger than any building the colonists had ever seen. "Stronghold Prime," one of the Vorthic soldiers announced in English, clearly proud of their accomplishment. "From here, we will process the human resources and prepare for expansion to other worlds." Alex realized, with growing horror, that this was just the beginning. The aliens weren't just conquering New Haven. They were using it as a base to launch attacks on other human colonies, and eventually Earth itself. The fortress was designed to hold thousands of prisoners, while the aliens stripped the planet of everything valuable. As night fell, Alex made his way closer to the prison compound. He needed to find Lisa and figure out how to get her to safety. The aliens had set up bright lights around the perimeter, but they seemed to rely mostly on their technology rather than physical patrols. They clearly didn't expect any human to be capable of mounting a rescue operation. The prisoners were crowded together in the energy-fenced area, sitting on the ground without shelter or adequate food. Alex could see Lisa near the center of the group, trying to comfort some of the younger children. She looked tired and scared, but she was still trying to help others. That was just like her, always thinking of everyone else first. The Vorthic guards were talking among themselves in their own language, but Alex could understand some of their gestures and tone. They were discussing the humans like specimens in a laboratory, pointing at different groups and making what sounded like scientific observations. One of them was holding a device that beeped when pointed at the prisoners, apparently measuring something about their biology. "Weak muscle density," one guard said in English, apparently practicing the human language. "Fragile bone structure. No natural weapons. Perfect for confined labor. Breeding stock shows promise," another guard replied. "High reproduction rate. Emotional attachment to offspring makes them compliant." Alex clenched his fists as he listened to the aliens discuss his people like animals. These creatures thought humans were nothing more than a resource to be exploited. They saw human emotions, human bonds, human love as weaknesses to be used against them. As the night wore on, Alex observed the aliens' routines and security measures. The Vorthic were clearly skilled conquerors, but they were also overconfident. They posted minimal guards, their patrols were predictable, and they seemed to believe that no human could possibly pose a threat to their operation, that overconfidence would be their downfall. Just before dawn, Alex heard explosions in the distance. The aliens have found the military base's ammunition depot and were destroying it to prevent any human resistance. The explosions lit up the sky like fireworks, and Alex could see the aliens pointing and laughing at the display. They thought they had won. They thought humans were beaten, broken, and helpless. They had captured thousands of people, destroyed the colony's defenses, and built an impregnable fortress. In their minds, the conquest of New Haven was complete, but Alex Carter was still free, still armed, and still very much alive. He had been trained by the best military in human space, and he had something the aliens didn't understand. He had the desperate fury of a man who had watched his world burn and his people enslaved. Vorthik had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that humans would behave like every other species they had conquered. They expected the survivors to either surrender or hide until they were eventually captured. They had no idea that some humans, when pushed to the breaking point, didn't run or surrender. Some humans fought back with everything they had, using every trick, every weapon, and every advantage they could find. Alex Carter was about to become their introduction to human warfare. And the aliens were going to learn that they had seriously underestimated what one determined human could accomplish. When everything he loved was on the line, the invasion was over. The resistance was about to begin. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive alien ship through the viewing port of the human exploration vessel Starbound. The alien craft was 3 times larger than his ship and looked like a giant metal blade cutting through space. Strange. Purple lights pulsed along its dark hull, and weapon ports lined its sides like angry eyes. "Sir, they're scanning us again," reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her position at the communication console. Her voice carried a slight tremor that she tried to hide. "The scans are getting stronger each time." Jake nodded, but kept his eyes fixed on the alien vessel. This was humanity's first contact with an alien species, and he knew that everything he did in the next few hours would shape the future of his race. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy stone. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let's try to talk to them." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien ship. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The creatures standing before him were unlike anything he had ever imagined. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin that looked like armor plating. Their heads were elongated, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Sharp teeth jutted from their mouths, and their hands ended in claws that could easily tear through metal. The largest of the aliens stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh, like grinding stone. "I am High Commander Zexteri of the Vorthik Empire. You will identify yourselves." Jake straightened his uniform and stepped closer to the screen. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Starbound. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." The alien commander's 4 eyes studied Jake with what looked like amusement. Behind Zextari, other Vorthik moved around their bridge, their claws clicking against metal surfaces. They seemed to be taking measurements and recording data. "Humans." Zextari repeated the word slowly, as if tasting it. "A new species. How fortunate for us." Jake didn't like the way the alien said those words. There was something hungry in its voice, something that made his skin crawl. "We hope this meeting can be the beginning of a long partnership between our peoples." The Vorthik commander let out a sound that might have been laughter. It was a harsh, grating noise that made several of Jake's crew members flinch. "Partnership? How amusing. Tell me, Captain Morrison, how many worlds do your people control?" "We have colonies on 12 worlds," Jake answered honestly. "Our homeworld Earth has a population of about 8 billion people." 8 billion. Zextari repeated, and Jake could see the alien's eyes gleaming with interest. "And how many of those are warriors?" Jake hesitated. The question seemed odd, but he decided to answer truthfully. "We have military forces, but most of our people are civilians. Farmers, teachers, doctors, engineers. We're a peaceful species. The Vorthic commander turned to speak with another alien in their own language. Their words sounded like angry growls and hisses. Jake noticed that the other Vorthic were pointing at screens that showed detailed scans of the human ship and its crew. Fascinating, Zextery said, turning back to face Jake. Your species is quite delicate. Our scans show that your bones are hollow, your skin is thin, and your muscles are weak. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. How do you survive? Jake felt his anger rising at the alien's dismissive tone, but he forced himself to remain calm. We survive through intelligence, cooperation, and technology. We don't need claws or thick skin when we have tools in each other. Tools, the alien commander repeated mockingly. Yes, we have examined your technology. Primitive fusion engines, basic energy weapons, simple computers. You are centuries behind even our oldest equipment. On the bridge of the Starbound, Jake could see his crew members growing tense. Lieutenant Brooks was gripping her console so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Chief Engineer Rick Carter was muttering something under his breath that sounded like profanity. We may not be as advanced as you, Jake said carefully, but we're always eager to learn. Perhaps we could share knowledge and help each other. The Vorthic commander's four eyes narrowed. Share knowledge? What could you possibly offer us? Your ships are slow, your weapons are weak, and your people are fragile. You are like children playing with toys. Jake's jaw tightened. We may look different from you, but we're not children. Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We've spread across the galaxy and built civilizations on dozens of worlds. We're stronger than we look, stronger than you look. Zextery made that harsh laughing sound again. Our scans show that a single Vorthic warrior could easily defeat 10 of your soldiers. Your bones would break like twigs, your skin would tear like paper. You cannot run fast, you cannot see in the dark, and you cannot survive in environments that would barely inconvenience us. Behind the commander, other Vorthic were studying displays that showed human anatomy, human cities, and human technology. They seemed to be having an animated discussion in their growling language. Physical strength isn't everything, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. Humans have other qualities that make us formidable. We're adaptable, creative, and determined. We never give up, even when facing impossible odds. Impossible odds? The alien commander leaned closer to the screen. You speak of determination, but our readings show that humans flee from danger. Your heart rates increase, your breathing becomes rapid, and your bodies produce stress chemicals. You are clearly a prey species, not predators. Jake felt his own heart rate increasing as the alien spoke. The creature's words were like insults, but worse than that, they felt like a threat. We may feel fear, but we don't let it control us. Some of our greatest heroes were people who were afraid but did what was right anyway. Heroes, Zextery repeated with obvious disdain. What need do you have for heroes when you live such safe, comfortable lives? Our scans of your colonies show no real defenses, no warrior culture, no preparation for battle. You are like soft fruit, ripe for harvesting. The words sent a chill down Jake's spine. What do you mean by that? The Vorthic commander's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. I mean that the Vorthic Empire is always in need of workers. Your people will be perfect for our mining operations. You are small enough to fit in narrow tunnels, numerous enough to provide a good workforce, and weak enough to be easily controlled. Jake's blood ran cold. You're talking about slavery. We prefer to call it practical resource management, Zextery said casually. Your people will be well fed and housed. In exchange, they will provide labor for the glory of the Vorthic Empire. It is a fair arrangement. No, Jake said firmly. Humanity will never accept slavery. We would fight to our last breath before we would submit to that. The alien commander's four eyes studied Jake for a long moment. Then it made that harsh laughing sound again. Fight? With what? Your primitive weapons? Your fragile bodies? Your untrained civilians? One Vortic battlecruiser could conquer an entire human world without breaking a sweat. Jake looked around at his crew. He could see fear in their faces, but also anger and determination. These were good people, brave people, and they would not go quietly into slavery. You're underestimating us, Jake said quietly. That could be a mistake. Underestimating you? Zextari's voice was filled with amusement. Captain Morrison, we have conquered 43 worlds. We have defeated species far more advanced than yours, far stronger than yours, far more numerous than yours. You are nothing more than an inconvenience to be dealt with. The alien commander turned to give orders to his crew in their own language. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could see the excitement in their movements. They were planning something, and he was certain it wasn't good. I suggest you prepare your people for integration into the Vortic Empire, Zextari said, turning back to face Jake. Resistance will only make the process more difficult for everyone involved. The communication link went dead, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. They had just witnessed humanity's first contact with an alien species, and it had gone about as badly as it possibly could. Sir, Lieutenant Brooks said in a shaky voice, what do we do now? Jake looked out at the alien ship, which was now turning away from them. He had a sinking feeling that it was heading toward human space, toward the colonies and Earth itself. The aliens thought humans were weak, helpless, and easy to conquer. They were about to find out just how wrong they were.